For this video, we're going to focus on single PC setup and a dual PC setup and what you guys can expect when trying to stream this game, both with the in-game settings and with your OBS settings. Of course, it's going to be more difficult if you're on a single PC setup than a dual PC. We're going to run through all the issues that we had and then a few others that you might be expecting along with OBS. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the MrTux channel. Got an exciting video for you, especially if what you're trying to do is stream your Cyberpunk game. I recommend you be playing this on a PC. Really, you should be buying this game either on Steam or on Stadia. There's no reason that you should be buying this on console at the moment because really it just seems like the consoles just can't hold up to this game on graphics and the way that it renders and the way that it runs. It is mostly due to how buggy the actual game is. Right as soon as I opened this game, I noticed that I was not able to run it at ultra high settings or high settings even for that matter, and that my power supply in my PC was having an issue, was struggling to keep up because it was just being sucked from the PC, from everything, from the graphics card. It was just being drained, which was the first immediate red flag. Even in performance mode, something had to change. Let me show you what I did. I needed to change around my settings, specifically my encoder. On this PC, I do run a 2080 Ti. It can handle ultra high settings on the game if I'm only playing the game. But because I'm also trying to send this out and because I have terrible internet anyways, what was struggling to keep up was when people started to follow and subscribe and my alerts took more out of my graphics card. My stream, my OBS was taking more priority out of my graphics card. Not only would the game start lagging, but also dropping frames on my stream. So that's where it became overloaded. What did we do to fix this? We went into our settings, output, and we swapped our encoder to our software 264. The reason why we did this is just because of how demanding Cyberpunk is as a game. Now, with other games like Call of Duty, Cold War, and Warzone, depending on what settings you are running, you may have to do this. Now, again, this is on a single PC setup. If you are using a dual PC setup, I recommend whichever computer you have a better or larger graphics card on, you should use that to run the game so that you can run the game at the best settings that fits your playstyle, that fits you, so that there's no issue just with that. Because if you can't play the game, well, your stream is going to be seeing the same thing. When it gets all pixelated, it starts lagging because you don't run it on a very good graphics card. If you're running it on a 2060, you're probably going to have some issues with Cyberpunk, even just running it in its performance mode. You want to make sure that you have your CPU doing the work in your OBS broadcaster, because when we were doing this and I was testing this, I was getting little PCU usage. Even when running the game and streaming and playing music and having chat open, Discord open, talking with friends that we're playing with at the time, we were still only at around 10%, at the most 12% usage of our CPU. And that was even when people were subscribing and following, that the animations were going off. You would jump up to maybe like a 15% at the most. If you have both a terrible graphics card like a 2060 and you have a terrible CPU, then this is going to be really, really difficult. And I suggest even just getting a laptop or something else to be able to run your OBS. That way that you can transfer everything over and have everything go through a capture card from one PC to the other. Really, this is a very difficult game to run if you don't have some of the newer GPUs and CPUs at the moment. It is going to be very, very difficult to run this game. Now, with dual PC setup, you don't need the best of the best graphics cards. You don't need any of the 3080s or 3090s or a 2080 Super even. If you got a 2060, something that can handle the game in performance mode by itself, I think you'll be just fine. As long as you have something else, either a laptop or something doing all of the encoding for your stream and sending everything out. Now that I've shown you that, what I want to do is I want to give you guys a good example while running the game. I was trying to show you what was going on with Cyberpunk. I tried putting it in ultra high settings with ray tracing ultra settings, the preset. The game instantly flatlined. I have a 2080 Ti with a really good CPU, and the usage is not even at max, and it's having that much of a problem. Unfortunately, there's not a guaranteed fix for that on a single PC setup. There's not, unless you have just an over-the-top computer and graphics card and CPU that you are just going to have no issues at all whatsoever and be able to run your stream and the game on just your GPU. Is it possible? Yes, but you're gonna need something that is extremely powerful, and the only time you're gonna use it is when you're playing one single game. And all you have to do instead of buying all of that super expensive equipment is just turn down the settings a little bit. Again, if my PC with this kind of hardware is having that much of an issue, you can imagine what the old gen consoles now, the PS4 and the Xbox One, you can imagine what kind of issues they are having. Now, I showed you the gameplay before, what it looks like. There was an issue with the nudity sensor, and a lot of people, including myself, we weren't even getting the option to censor anything. I thought I had set it, and then I went to look in the gameplay settings to see where the option was, and I wasn't getting an option. But now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to fix your settings so that you can stream the game without getting a DMCA issue. We want to go over to the sound, which is the very first one, and you want to go over to the disable copyright music. There is a lot of copyright music in this game when you walk into clubs, bars, different things. Even with the copyright issue, there was a problem with one of the clubs, one of the missions. Content creators were still getting a DMCA strike even with this disabled. Warning so far, but they are planning to fix that in their next hotfix, their next update. Now, on to the more important one, which is under your gameplay. You're gonna go all the way to the bottom in the miscellaneous tab. You're gonna go to the nudity sensor, and you wanna make sure that is on. Now, the first time when I tried streaming Cyberpunk, I had no option here. Well, there was a reason for that. Because in the first update, when I first installed the game, there was something wrong in the configuration settings. So let's go into that. Now, there's actually something wrong with the files in the game. So what you want to do is you want to open Steam and go to your Cyberpunk in your library. You want to go to manage, and you want to browse the local files. Now, when this shows up, you're going to want to go to the R6 folder. You're going to want to go through the config, your settings, options. Now, this may not open right up into Notepad. You may have a blank white page, which means that your computer doesn't know what kind of program that it wants to open this in, and you just want to make sure that you open it with Notepad. So when it gives you options, just make sure it's your Notepad. Then you want to press Control F, and you want to type in sensor. Press enter, and it's going to bring you to this. Now, down here in these two options, what I ran into is that one of these options was false. If one of them is false, what you're going to want to do is make them both true, and then make sure that everything here matches up. Also, if you're editing this, make sure that every line ends with the comma. Otherwise, you're going to run into issues. Just making sure that both of these read true instead of false, because that was my issue. Now, as this game continues to update, fix bugs, and a few other things, along with how it handles on your graphics, you're going to take up a lot more disk space on your PC. So you just want to make sure that you're managing those files correctly. If any other new games ever come out and you ever need space for those, you'll have plenty as long as you just uninstall one Cyberpunk game. If I were you, I would make sure you have that room. You have more than enough. There's just that much space. These games are taking up way too much space now. There's a lot of processing that needs to go into these now, and that's why I recommend a dual PC setup. But if you're stuck like me and you got a one PC setup, we make it work anyways. Without this kind of experience, I don't know if we'd be able to have tutorials like this in order to make it easier for us to stream these games. Keep at it, work hard. If you guys have any questions, you guys can come catch me when I'm live. I stream over on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and most Saturdays, or you can jump in the Discord. I'll leave links to everything down in the description down below. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay busy. Squad wipe.
Last member's down.